Here we're using the angle grinder to cut out the top half of the vermin flashing. I've made a mark on the vermin flashing 10 millimeters below the concrete, and we've cut that out. Here I'm just starting to cut out the tin to set the height of my head flashing, and then just trimming the side of the door away. What we're doing is forming the doorway here, and I'm going to start installing my J-track and my little pieces of top hat here that my J-track will sit over. Here we're just cutting out the excess J-track that we need. So just going through there and carefully cutting that all out. And now I've got my J-track and I'm just installing that. Just obviously I'm going to have to cut the top to the right size, so I'm going to mark that now and then install that in. Just putting my marks on that, and I'm going to do the angled cut so that fits in snugly to the top purlin there. There we are, I've cut that out and I've fitted that in, and it's fitting really nicely. I've got to get that behind those small top hats, so it's just taking a little bit of force to put it in there. Here I'm just going through and I've put in the rest of my J-track, and I'm just wrapping all my paper around. Now the joinery's arrived, heavy bits of joinery, this double glazing, so we're just carrying that through. I'm going to leave that on the floor, just up off blocks, so the edge of the joinery doesn't get damaged at all. The City Glass has supplied all this joinery, and they do a fantastic job. When you first get your kit set, you might notice that there's no head flashings for your joinery. They get supplied with the windows. Here we're just slipping this in. Here we're using a plate very carefully just to pop the head flashing, to move it up, to push the head flashing in, and marking my screw line to keep my head flashing tight down onto the window. Here we go, so we've got in this first piece of joinery into the shed, and we've set it in there. It's a nice snug fit, so it's not going anywhere, but you're going to use these joinery screws. So that's what these packs are for, joinery screws. So because I'm going to have to take this door back out once I get flashings to put the flashings in, I'm just going to tack it in a couple of positions. So I'm just going to screw one up here and one down the bottom for now. That's going to hold it in securely, and then I'll do it on the other side. Obviously when I fully screw that, I'll make sure it's pulled in completely, but because this is just a temporary tacking, I'm just going to chuck a couple of those in. Not enough wheat picks this morning. Have to get the old trusty step ladder on the job. So now next step will be installing the window. We've fully lined this end of the shed, which is how you usually do it, and I've now marked out on my top hat how big my window is, and I'm going to go through and cut these out. So I'm just carefully cutting through both sides of this, and I've removed that. I've then drilled from the inside out, marking holes in the four corners of my window. I usually do this slightly smaller than my window size and then cut it out. And then from there I can get a perfect measurement and just make that hole a bit bigger. I'm cutting the paper away, leaving a bit of excess so that can be pushed around. What we're doing here is cutting our J-track for the window. So this piece, the tongue, I want to extend to the bottom here. Then this will sit over here, come down that face and down. So what I've done is measured that, measured up, put my mark, measured the depth down, measured to there, then I've squared across, and I know that that's 55 mils difference. So I've put a mark there and then done an angle across and down. So now I'm going to cut up here, cut this all out, and then I'll be able to sit it in. And if it's not perfect, you can always just recut it a little bit. But we'll get that in there, that will sit over there, and then up to the top. And that will form the first side for my window. I'll form my other side, and then I'll get a bottom in, and then be able to do my top. So we'll cut that now and go from there. So here I am installing my bottom sill and screwing that into position. When I put my top sill or header in, I put that in but I don't screw it off until I've got my window in position. This makes it easier to get your window and header in, and also means that you can get a nice snug finish by pulling that down and into position once you're ready. There we are, just carefully pushing the window in. Definitely good two-man job this, to push it in. And here again we're popping our head flashing in. As you can see, I've left all my screws out on the tin above that to give me the maximum flexibility to pop in the window. Here we're just tacking the window back in again, and now I'm pulling down my top piece of J-track to position that and screw that into position. I've just used a ruler to keep it the same distance off at both ends, and put a couple of Tech screws into that to hold it into position. Here I'm setting the height for my screws so I can screw through my tin, through my head flashing it, and into the J-track behind, holding it in.